It is 19 hours 33 in Guyana and right across the Eastern Caribbean. Good evening to you wherever you're joining us from at this time. It is time for us to enter room 592 where we unleash the truth. And of course, joining us in room 592 this evening is the host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and his co host, senior journalist Leonard Gildarie. And we're happy to be joined by Dr. Amarnath Dukhi. Gentlemen, a pleasant good evening to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss. Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Joshua Van Slytman. And let me say, first of all, thank you to Kaito Radio Management and the technical team working hard behind the scenes to make tonight's program a success. And of course, every night's program a success as usual. Josh, thank you for being there. Doc, welcome to room 592. And I know this is not a surgery, and so I'm and I'm welcoming you to this room. But it is room 592, Doc, where we unleash the truth. As I say, good evening to you and welcome. And of course, good evening to my co-host, Mr. Leonard Gildarie. And ladies and gentlemen from all across Guyana, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us on YouTube, Facebook, on the website, web stream, or on radio all across the country, welcome to room 592, where we unleash the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, what a historic 5 to 6 months it has been. And I must tell you, the journey is almost complete. We will talk more about that later. But for now, it is a pleasure, a privilege to introduce to you all, ladies and gentlemen, a fine gentleman, a doctor, someone who I call with greatest of regard a brother, a humanitarian, and a person whom a year ago the newspaper carried a headline that says, a brilliant neurosurgeon and an undeniable patriot, Dr. Amarnath Dukhi. Doc, welcome to room 592, sir.
Thank you, Yog. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. It's my pleasure to be here. And I will want to start off by saying maybe we can dissect it.
It's a play for
Well,
words there.
we will leave that to the doctor to do. We're going to unleash it and then you can dissect it. Leonard, how are you, my friend?
A little better. Today was a little thing. I felt a little dehydrated today, but guess what? Not giving up. It's simple. I think I'm just doing what I have to do. And but it was a little difficult today. I'm talking. I joined the show and I became dehydrated. My mouth was dry. I presume that's all part of the stuff that's happening. I guess I'm having it a little more severe.
Great. Well, Leonard, we have a doctor in the house, and all the pretense you normally put up about not being too well and about having COVID, the doctor is going to quickly pick you out and call you out for those kinds of things.
Yes,
But
yes.
anyway, jokes,
I think so.
joke, jokes aside, Doc, we welcome you to this program because, while we have been focusing on politics and all of that, we do know that mainstream health, and especially the niche kind of health that you I would say father and grandfather in this country, the healthcare, neurosurgery and that kind of thing is quite new to Guyana. You are Guyana's first neurosurgeon. You are Guyana's headliner in terms of this field, sir. And recently, you would have done one of Guyana's, well, not one of, the first successful transplant surgery upon somebody's skull, upon the head of one of the patients, I think originating from Essequibo. Doc, we wanted you here tonight. And we wanted you for many reasons. One is to talk about the work you're doing, but more for you to tell us as well what might be some of the tips and tricks, what might be some of the warnings you would give to the general populace and so on. But before we get to the free advice, because Leonard, Doc is not going to send a consultation bill here tonight. This is free. This is what he does. If it's one thing I know of the gentleman, he is a humanitarian as well. Doc, tell us a little bit about this very difficult, a recent successful surgery that you were able to perform, and I must say by God's grace and your good work, on this skull transplant for this Essequibo patient. Tell us a little bit about it, and tell us a little bit about the excitement you have in your field, sir.
Thank you, Yog. First, I must say that I'm an instrument of the Lord, and whatever I do, I'm guided. So the success was something that comprehensive work. It was a 23-year-old female that, when she was about 12 years old, started to notice part of her skull on her left side of her head was indented, and as she grew older, that was progressing. It took with it into her head, the orbit or her left eye. There was some sort of asymmetric facial disorder that prompted her to seek medical advice in her area, which is Essequibo. I thought if I can remember well, she saw a few doctors in Essequibo, Saudi Hospital, etc. And they probably couldn't. It's a very rare issue, and they couldn't have diagnosed her properly. So she continued to live, and the defect continued to get worse as the disease was progressing. Eventually, she started to have some of the complication of the issues that she was having, and that mostly were headaches, vision disorder, among some other smaller symptoms. Eventually, she came to Georgetown, and she saw one of our neurologists at the one neurologist which we have at Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, and she had some scans done, etc. And still, there were some difficulty in diagnosing what was happening to this guy. She was treated eventually for the headache, which didn't subside, and I know she has a cousin who is a doctor with us at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. Eventually, they came to see me, and I think that was last June. And, after examining her, look at her scans and so on, I was able to tell her, listen, this is one of the it's a bone disorder. It's called craniofacial dysplasia, and eventually had some other studies done and so on. So we were able to diagnose it as a craniofacial fibrous dysplasia. So basically what's happening here, Yog, is that part of the healthy skull start to convert itself into fibrous tissues, changing its original osseous structure or bony structure into fibrous tissue. That is weaker, they are prone to fracture, and of course deformities. Now what was really happening here, what was producing her headaches, was that the skull was convoluting, it was going inwards, and actually what it was happening, it was compressing her frontal lobe. Now her frontal lobe, more so, she's a right-handed patient, so her left hemisphere is her dominant hemisphere. So it controls a lot of her cognitive function, and what we like to call eloquent areas of the brain are more to her left side than to the right side. So if you're right-handed, your left hemisphere is considered to be your dominant hemisphere. And if you're left-handed, then the right hemisphere is considered to be your dominant half of your brain. In this case, it was her dominant half that was affected. Eventually, I explained to them, no, this is what's happening. Some of the further complication that could have happened was that she could have developed ischemic changes to the brain, eventually to brain damage, which would have eventually lead to issues such as seizures, paralysis, and etc. So I knew then that, we had to act. Previously, imagine if we were talking about, I realized that like 40% of her skull was sick. It was going nowhere. That's part of her disease. And then there were no other way, because that part of her skull had to be removed surgically. And what are you going to do with this patient if it's removed surgically? There's nothing in Guyana to have an implant done. So there is the company that's called Neurospine Services Inc. It's specialized. It's a company that is specialized in brain and spinal care. I would like to say advanced brain and spinal care in here. And over the last couple of months, we were able to do brain aneurysms, skull transplant, etc. And one of the things that is on our timetable is an awake brain surgery, maybe the first in the English-speaking community. So Going back to the 23-year-old patient's issue, is that after I looked at her, I realized that we have to have a synthetic skull or something to put back in that place. So through Neurospine Services, we started to make contact with our international partners, with our Vision Medical Limited and KLS Martin out of the US, which in this case I chose KLS Martin because they have a good repertoire of implant construction and so on around the world. And after initial contact, they asked for a 3D reconstruction of this patient's body. So of course we have MRI and then we have CT scans in Guyana. So I did a CT scan and I reconstructed it 3-dimensionally. And that was sent all the way to the US, by, of course, everything in the virtual world of the COVID pandemic. We used our digital technology and we were able to send that to KLS Martin. Now you would know that the left side of you're taking 40% out of someone's head. There's a lot of curves and grooves around here, and then the face, then it was affecting our eyes, and the orbit was going backwards. So there's a lot of work. And constructing an implant without actually seeing someone's head and actually to physically examine them can be something very, very difficult and tedious. So I know of KLS Martin and the work they would have done, and I was very confident in them producing an implant for this patient. So went ahead with that. We had all the final details like checked her skull measured the 3-dimensional. We sent it up to KLS Martin. So we're talking like I first saw this patient in June, and we were able to see that as a very efficient response. If this could not have been done in Guyana, then this is a patient who would have to be sent. And this is one of the things that I think that we have to do in our healthcare purposes. We have to move forward.
Doc, you might wanna talk a little closer to your mic. Your mic seems to be going off. Sorry.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we have to do for Guyana and our health sector. We have to find eyes in our health sector. We have to give our people specialized health care. This country no longer has to send our patients.
Correct.
No way. We're in the 21st century. I think we're going to have the process sooner than later. Be able to come to build infrastructural capability. And I have no doubts about our human resource capacity. We have seen it. Our doctors are excellent. We are lacking in our infrastructural capacity. And if we have our infrastructural capacity, then we can have these type of services for people. Our idea is to do world-class health services for people. We should no longer for what we accustomed. And offering because we require quality and specialization.
So one of the things, Doc, that is very interesting, I must say. And when I'm looking at some of our online viewers and their comments, a lot of persons are really seeing and wishing you, heaps and loads of success and love. A lot of love flowing, genuine love, genuine care. And people are praying that may your hands always continue to, like Mr. Hawker has prayed that may your hands always continue to be blessed by Almighty Allah, and so forth. So Doc, you are doing a fantastic job. Now, Leonard, unfortunately, seems like I will have to go and ensure Doc gets good internet, because he is doing a good job, but without the correct internet connection.
But blame it on GT&T, because really what I wanted to ask the good doctor, and Doc, we're proud of you, is really which part of or which side of the head, is it the back part that the politicians are being controlled by? And that's a stupid joke. But I want to ask you, in terms of our capacity in Guyana here, where does Guyana stand in terms of this capacity that we've been able to build now compared to the rest of the Caribbean? How are we doing?
So as I mentioned, I think in terms of human resource capacity, we are right up there with the rest of the Caribbean. We are right up there in terms of our doctors or specialized care. Now, again, we have a full-time cardiologist, cardiothoracic surgeon. We have a we have a thoracic surgeon. We have a visiting cardiothoracic surgeon. We have transplant being done, kidney transplant. We have
Mm-hmm.
general surgery and surgical interventions being done, orthopedic joint replacement. So in terms of human resource capacity, we are right there with the rest of the Caribbean. I'll go so far to say the rest of the world in terms of our doctors.
Mm.
In terms of our infrastructure, we are lacking. And we are seriously lacking of our infrastructure and some of the more modern medical technologies that we need. And I'll say it here because I've said it before. I'm of the opinion that Georgetown Public Hospital has outlived its capacity in terms of an infrastructure. In terms of its infrastructure, we need to have a new hospital where we're going to specialize care. Georgetown Hospital just celebrated over 100 years of existence. So you can think that hospital was built to suit medicine more than 60 years ago. Now, how can we fit? Medical care has revolutionized itself over the years, and you all know
Right.
that. Things that we're doing now, we could never have thought of doing it 50 years ago. So you have an infrastructure that you are cutting and fix to suit what's happening now. For me, that is not it's not financially feasible. It takes a lot more money to do that. Instead of we taking that
Mm-hmm.
to meet the 21st century coursework medical expertise. That is what
Right.
I think that's just one step of specialized care. But I also think that we should not always look at specialized health care as our dominant or where we should press all our resources to. We have to go back and look at the primary health care and preventative medicine. If we can set up a system in Guyana where we have good, so I like to call it medical census.
Mhm.
And I medical census as the following, where we have our populations, we have 10 regions. Let's go to region 6. My love is there, my roots is there, and let's use region 6 as an example. And we do a medical census. Let's do a national census. That's all we need to do. And we know
Mm-hmm.
population density like in region 6, and we calculate that. And we divide it among the centers that we need, 6, so that every health center or every diagnostic center or every whatever we built can control a population, let's say, of 1,000 people or even 1,005. And we have enough primary healthcare practitioners in this country, and we put them.
Right.
We capture things like diabetes, we capture hypertension. So we have, and if you capture them early by prophylaxis, and you do early good prophylaxis, then you're going to avoid all the complications that get to Georgetown Hospital. Strokes will not
Right.
have that usually called the head stroke. It is not here. If you have good pressure control, good diabetic blood sugar control, there's so much you can do in preventative medicine, and you're going to take that weight off our tertiary institution. We have to go back. We have to go back and create a vibrant primary health care system in this country, where we're going to practice a lot of preventative medicine, capture a patient that are likely to suffer from the complications of their chronic non-communicable diseases, and then it's going to be so much better. That's my little piece, and that's how I see things. I do have a master's in primary health, family medicine, and primary health care. I have some knowledge in terms of preventative medicine. So we have a lot of work to do. I have a very vibrant young president who has lot of, a lot of ideas for the health sector, and I do hope that these can be implemented sooner or later. And of course, we can have more of these type of surgeries.
Right. So Doc, to put it all together then, while we have a way to go to have our capacity in terms of buildings and stuff like that, infrastructure, sorry, while we have a way to go, it is not something that is out of our reach, and it is not something that is far out of our reach. It can be done and done in fairly short order, can't it?
Absolutely so. Absolutely. One of the things is the financial resources to build these things, and of course, we have to have some foreign input in terms of our biomedical. I think we are lacking a bit in our biomedical engineering. So, of course, we can have
Mm-hmm.
hospital development specialists. And we have to have these people in place. We have resources here that will tell you how to fit an operation room, what it needs, what it doesn't need. But the structural aspect of it, I think we're lacking our biomedical aspect of it. So, yes, as long as the willpower of our government and our people and our health sector is there, definitely, I think in short order, policies can be put in place and we can work towards developing one, a specialized hospital, and two, or I will
Mm-hmm.
like first that I will say a vibrant primary healthcare system to do a lot of preventative medicine and our specialized hospital. Some of its
And
questions.
Great.
and if I may ask Doc
Sure.
to just come forward a little. And Doc, I want to ask you, I think because people were asking, how cheap is something like this? Who's going to pay for the bill when we have to do operations like this? And this is me, the layman, not two talking to two doctors here, but the layman talking about some poor people who may be afflicted and may have to come for some help. Who's going to pay for it, and how cheap are operations like this?
Leonard, that's a very, very good question. And I personally have been faced with that on multiple occasions. You would know that brain surgery is not cheap. It takes a lot of resources. And of course, most of these major issues cannot be done in the public health sector. Cannot be done. And the policy is that if it cannot be done in the public health sector, what usually happens is that you send these people overseas. We're in COVID time. No country is accepting anyone. What are we going to do with our people?
Right. Of course.
I've tried
Of
to
course.
procedures to Guyana, hence why Neurospine Services Inc. was created with its international partnership with our sister company in Trinidad and Tobago, is Vision Medical Limited, and of course multiple.
Mhm.
Actually, Neurospine Services is still distributed to ALS market, which are international recognized brands for medical products. So back to Leonard's question is that I've always promoted that we need to have a national health plan for our people. We should have that where everyone a system where you should contribute something, and if the patient cannot contribute it, our constitution says, and I know that they say healthcare is free for everyone. That's what we should do.
Mm-hmm.
Some plan in place, and I know it has been spoken about previously that it should be a private public health partnership, meaning that there should be some government assistance to especially poor patients who needs to have these procedures done. Um, of course, there's a lot of patients that cannot afford to have some of these surgeries, and I personally have to assist in multiple occasions. Waiving fees, having people to assist, asking the private hospital where it can be done, Neurospine donating um, things to have the surgery done. So yes, but there's so much we can do from our standpoint, and we need. And I do foresee, based on my recent conversation with those in government, that we are going to work on something where the government will be able to help a health fund, and then you have a board that
Mm-hmm.
each case as it comes in, and we look at their socioeconomic background, and then we are able to tell them, listen, the board will be able to tell after reviewing these cases that, listen, this is someone the government needs to assist, because we don't want people to abuse the system. So yes, that may be one of the answers to your question. Of course, I'm always
Great.
that free healthcare is difficult at any government. At
Right.
any sustained
Right.
Right.
healthcare.
Especially when it gets right, especially when it gets to this specialization part, right? Because one of the things I think, Leonard, one of the things that I think countries like Guyana has to continue to debate and argue and battle with is that in part the private health systems and private business, for example, are going to help to drive innovation, whereas the public public businesses and public health systems are gonna basically provide basic care
Right,
or
right.
good care. Now, when I say basic, I don't mean negative. I mean good care. But doc, to that point, Guyana is fortunate that it has a good mix of private and public healthcare, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. In any country, especially in our country, where public health is free for citizens, and there are some people who don't want to go to the public health sector, or they don't want to assist to the.
Hmm.
Currently, there's a lot of people who are scared to go to the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation because it's actually the COVID center. It's the COVID center, and although we have things in place in terms of separating those COVID patients from the rest of the population in the hospital, and we also have system in place in the types of surgery we coming down COVID cases, emergency, people are still skeptical. They're still
And
scared.
yeah, correct.
So
And I like your point about the health fund, and it is something that I think, Leonard, from our perspective here in this program, we certainly endorse it. Is one of the way to go, and for Guyana to really provide. I mean, look, why does Guyana have a public health system? It's because of the poverty levels, because of the levels of income of people,
Mm.
and people's ability to pay for services. And so, I certainly applaud that, Doc. And I know we did promise you 30 minutes tonight, and we are at that time when we cannot, Leonard, before the bill comes to you, and I'm joking again, but we cannot exploit on Doc's time. We certainly look forward to continuing this discussion at some other platform, some other time. But Doc, it's been a pleasure. I would just want to spend 2 minutes, if you don't mind, sir. If you could tell us a little bit of, what are some of the basic do's and don'ts that as a population we should be aware of that could avoid some of the more simpler challenges that people put to you. I mean, simple thing like our posture, simple thing like stretching. I mean, what might be some of the things that you would tell people incorporate this in your daily habit?
so that's from my area of work perspective.
Yes, yes,
Let's start from the head and then we go to the spine. And we spoke about
sure.
posture. Of course, some of the things you cannot simply prevent. Like, for example, a brain tumor, you don't know when that is going to happen. Like any other area of your body where you will have a mass growing. So, um, what we will, in that sense, we'll tell them, always the basic stuff, healthy lifestyle, eat, what to eat, what not to eat. Of course, and that's where our primary health care comes in. Um, of course, two of the main issues you have faced here is diabetes and hypertension. We have had multiple patients, although I don't rate cerebrovascular accident or what's normally called stroke. We still end up seeing a lot of them, especially if there's a hemorrhagic stroke where there's blood in the brain, among other stuff. So
Right.
we could capture these patients, and our health culture in our population also is very bad here. I think one of the things with that is educating them. We have to educate our people, and that's why I've pushed so much that we should have a health medical census. So we use our national census, and then we have the same small areas where you capture a certain amount of people in a clinic and you review them. Because, for example, your hypertensive and diabetes, two of the most popular chronic non-communicable diseases, the complications of
Right.
those are stroke in the head, rupture vessels, blockage,
Wow.
lead to cardiovascular issues also, so heart condition. So if you can stop someone who has a genetic markup to have diabetes because of family or hypertension or so on. You have some relation, and then eventually, well, you can let them know about good lifestyle changes, what to eat, exercise, etc. And if you can maintain a good blood sugar level, a good blood pressure during the time of your disease, then you're highly unlikely to have suffer the consequences or the complication of not having that control. So that's
Right.
because I found that those are very prevalent in our society. Um, in terms of the spine, there's a lot of issues. And one of the major issues with our spine is bad posture, you correctly said. Bad posture leads to early, and even let's not say early, degenerative spinal disease. So we are, Leonard is sitting there, but he's bending his head continuously into the computer. He's working, he's a journalist, and he's typing, he's typing. He takes no break for 3 hours. So the curve in your neck, bad posture, you sit, you just You're not sitting upright in your chair. You're looking at those. You lift weight without bending your knees. You put the pressure on your back. So good posture, good lifestyle again, etc. are some of the things that we should do, because degenerative spinal disease is something that I've seen continuously over the years. And of course, our traumatic injuries. We cannot preach enough in our population to drive safely on the road, be careful on heights, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen multiple people talk about it. So, of course, it comes back to educating our people of good health practices. We have to educate them.
Right.
To start our primary health care program up and running, it's part and parcel of that. You educate your people. You tell them what not to do to prevent this and to prevent that. And you have talks. And you talk to them on a monthly basis. You identify the population that is high risk and you speak to them. And you educate them. And they'll know better, and they more than likely are going to do better. Now, as it is, we don't know better. Most of our people our health culture is that when we get sick, we go to the hospital.
Correct. Well, Doc, thank you so very much for that. We thank you so very much. It it has been an interesting 30 minutes, 30 odd minutes that we have spent here, and we do appreciate you taking the time. We also know how very busy you are, and could imagine the discipline you have to put in your own life to manage all the calls and all the stress and everything else. And I must say, Leonard, having the doctor in the house makes us also start to sit upright, right? And you want to straighten your back up.
No. It's good because what you're saying, unconsciously we do a lot of things that we may not have an idea the implications of that, and it's good. It's good for us to be reminded.
Of course. Doc, thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and we look forward to future engagements with you, sir.
My pleasure, Leonard.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Leonard, that has been a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, I like that, man. And, we should all be very proud of some of the capacity that we have here, some of the people that we have here. And it's so very good to hear that we have built this capacity. I think when you're talking about doing those kind of surgeries, you're looking at maybe overseas, Trinidad and other places. Knowing that we have that capacity, that was a very good thing. I really like that. I'm proud of him. Apparently, he trained in Cuba too.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, he started off, remember, he started off from the usual, and then he went to do his specialization. Kaiser News, actually, ladies and gentlemen, Kaiser newspaper, that is, a little while back, published a wonderful Charmin Granger, I think, article, special person, on September 29, 2019. Published an excellent article on Dr. Amarnath Dukhi that gives a perspective of his background, where he's from, his studies, and so forth. So that's a nice reference point for the good doctor. So, gentlemen, as you come on, kindly mute your mics so that we can continue the conversation. Leonard, it is also interesting that Dr. Dukhi has spoken to the perspective of Guyana's need to make that move from just being a basic healthcare provider to start thinking about these specialist services and move the entire health platform upwards. Now, we do know that the government has been keen on some of these things going forward, and so we will continue to assess and analyze how the government can incorporate such things into its policies going to the future, Leonard, because a population certainly deserves. And also very, very important was that discussion about the health fund, because Guyanese, by and large, cannot afford these specialty surgery and health care. And so, as we know, our NIS system, you had the NIS people on your show the other day, the NIS system, Guyana health insurance system is badly in deficit. And those are things we got to look at. But, ladies and gentlemen, so that has been Dr. Amarnath Dukhi, and we are very thankful that he made it time to come here. I wish that we had more time to spend with him, because it was in really, really interesting. Our apologies for the internet connection. Maybe, Leonard, I need to go get a job somewhere that can work on getting a good connection.
Could you go to GT&T and maybe, you need to go to GT&T and fix that.
GTNT is going to do a good job on its own. I'm sure. I'm sure. Let me say hello to our good friend Justin Ned as well, CEO of GTNT. And to all the employees there. We beat them up sometimes, but good night to all of you, ladies and gentlemen there and Digicel. But our country comes first, and Leonard and I are going to continue to call it the way we see it because we need to have good service. Without power and without internet connectivity, communication connectivity, a country cannot advance. There's no two ways about it, Leonard.
Mhm.
Power and connectivity, the two key elements for a country's development. You can have all the wealth, oil wealth, whatever. If you don't have power to people's homes, if you don't have power to the business sector, there is no production. If you don't have connectivity, there is nothing you can do. So I think at the end of the day, those things are extremely important. Let me welcome our two good friends, Mr. Ozzy Rogers, a good friend of ours who's been in room 592 before. Ozzy, welcome to room 592, my brother. I see you wearing something that's looking red and blue. Is that being a Democrat or is that recognizing who's in government in Guyana?
Thank, uh, thank you very much for having me once again, my brothers. Hello to our brother over there. I think he's in Berbice, former Prime Minister rep. And let's say it's a mixture of everything.
Okay.
All right.
Great. And I know it's getting to that nice time in the US when you're looking at all the debates and trying to follow all the polls that will prove to be untrue come November. But we'll get to that in another discussion. Let me also welcome Mr. Gobin Harbhajan, former Prime Minister's representative in the Berbice region, and former, I will use the word former, hardworking member of the AFC. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gobin Harbhajan is here tonight. We have asked him to join us because we have seen that, with regards to the politics in Guyana, parties win elections, parties lose elections. It is what they do when they lose that matters as much as what they do when they win. That makes politics either a laughing stock or something that you can build on in Guyana. And Mr. Gobin Harbhajan has been one of the persons who have been outspoken. There are many times he kept his peace and he kept his quiet, but there have been many times that he has faced a lot of flack, but has spoken out regardless because, as he has said to me, he cared more about his service to the people than a service to a party per se. Mr. Harbhajan, welcome to room 592, sir.
Thank you, Yog and Gildarie, for having me and for those kind words of introduction. And yes, there is a lot of things within me for the past few years, but I hold my cool and focus on one of the objectives that I have at the time that was for the people. And I always ask God and pray that some of our politicians share the same views as me as I did, because at many times I tried to set the head in the right direction. But as we go along in the program, we'll talk more on that.
Great. So, Mr. Rogers, we have not had you to discuss the swearing in of the new parliament, and now today, after a long haul, finally there is a parliament, that is National Assembly, that is sworn in. We have a speaker, we have a deputy speaker. Deputy Speaker Mr. Schuman, of course, this being the month of Indigenous Peoples, it is instrumental that a person of his caliber representing the Amerindian and Indigenous peoples of Guyana is made deputy speaker. Your thoughts, Ozzy, on the recent political happenings in Guyana. I know that you would not have necessarily been pro PPP as you were anti those who were against democracy.
Democracy.
Right? And naturally, when you fight against those who hold democracy at ransom, you're branded one way or the other. But Ozzy, what's your take on what's the recent happenings in Guyana?
I am very, very excited about what is happening. I have seen His Excellency hit the ground running. His Excellency has already indicated that he his cabinet is built, made up of no lazy bones, and he's leading by example. He's already hit the ground running and delivering the goods and services that is necessary at this time for the Guyanese people. Also, as it relates to over the last 5 months, and I would venture to say over the last 5 years, social cohesion has taken a beating in our country. Racism has raised its ugly head in the last 5 months, advocated by a political party that was bent on destroying our country and taking away our democracy. And from the swearing of His Excellency, he has already indicated that he is going to go all out to ensure that our country return to the type of return to enjoy the type of unity we once enjoyed. Hence the reason that you have seen that he first brought out got a cabinet in place that is a reflection of the entire Guyana. You have a mixture of every single social group in his cabinet. So I think His Excellency has set out on this to ensure that he shows the Guyanese people that he is serious about our nation's cohesion, and he's serious about bridging the gap and repairing the damage that was done over the past 5 months in terms of our the damage that was done to our fabric, our unity fabric. Hence the reason too, sir, that his party has ensured that on this Indigenous month, we brought forward a deputy speaker, the very first deputy speaker of Amerindian heritage, of Amerindian background, sorry. So His Excellency is going, I think, above and beyond to demonstrate to our nation, his people, and the rest of the world that he's serious about our country being united and working together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. And Ozzy, I'm sure that a lot of Guyanese, both in Guyana and abroad, would be proud of the stance you have taken yourself, my brother. And, I want to read from Mr. Udit Narayan, a statement, when he refers to what is happening here. But I want to go on to Mr. Gobin Harbhajan. Mr. Harbhajan, I want to reflect a little bit on what your most recent expressed opinions would have been, sir. You have expressed some opinions. For example, you expressed an opinion a couple of days ago, well, yesterday, as a matter of fact, I think, on the swearing in of Leonard Schumann as the deputy speaker, the election, of Leonard Schumann as deputy speaker. And, sir, your opinion differed from that of the AFC. You also, over the past couple of weeks, you have said that you disagreed with some of the things that the AFC would have maybe descended towards from their high ground to what they are now. Mr. Gobin Harbhajan, what is your current assessment of the party that you supported, sir? And before you answer, let me read to you one of our viewers' comments. Before you answer, let me read to you one of the comments of one of our viewers. He said, Harbhajan is a man for the people. He's a humble human being. Over to you, sir.
Well, thanks to that, the viewers. One of my objectives in politics, 2005, when I first got into it, it was for the people and to improve the livelihood and the community of Berbice. And I saw at the time that the only party was advocating for that, and it's attracted me, was the AFC. And I give it my all. And we fought to remove the PPP, but that we run 2 elections, I think 2011 and the one in 2006 there. But unfortunately, at those, we weren't expected to win a government, but we were focusing on a strong third force that we could hold the balance. Unfortunately, 2015 February, we collate and we were successful. And I speak at many platforms during the time of 2015 and 2011. So one of the things that we advocate is that for improve and corruption. And I stick with that motto up until today. yes, we went in government 2015. I was fortunate to be the Prime Minister for Berbice and East Berbice, and also an RDC councillor. So I have leverage and both angles to fulfill those promises that I would have been, the share. Unfortunately, my colleagues them was not on the same page as me. So the first 2 years I was battling it, and then I'm having a good sense of what type of politician we have in this world today, and most likely in my party too, because I was shocked to see some of the views they share. And I remember, you from Berbice originally, and being in Berbice and not support the PPP and from a different party. Remember, I was facing the heat from 2005. You go to Jandy House, Wake House, then by going Terry Taylor. But I stand and I deliver with whatever little resource I have. And then I personally, this is my personal view, I felt some of my top end in the AFC felt that either two things. One, either I'm being too famous or being recognized too quick, and they stopped listening to me at one point. So come 2018, we went in the local government and we test the water. And what happened? We come up short with 2 seats. I think we have a leftover seat at Wim, and one was in Amsterdam. And I brought it to the attention, and no one seems to listen. Like, there was a saying that when you get into power, or you work hard to achieve something, and then you gone up so high, somebody regular man at the bottom got to get a ladder to reach you. So we lost our focus, and we take the people for granted. It's not only the AFC. Decades, the politician been doing the same thing. You will find them only during the time of campaign, and I stand up there listening to some of them. Some of them is the same cycle they be carrying on with. So I could not deal with that. So 2019, we have that conference, that Congress, AFC Congress, and I contested for a seat there for being the executive, that I would have made a difference, because I'm very street smart and not educated. I could have convinced a few of them to follow the vision that I have, to set them in that direction. Because when we started the campaign, I had some conversation with Carl Greenwich Harman, and I tell him I don't see we winning this election, because to win it, you need the Indian votes, and he must come. And we lost that in the region, and I know it was going to come, but there was no AST for you to put it on, or either they were up there focusing on themselves. And for the question where my other guest you have there say about the appointment of the Schuman as the deputy speaker of the House, the AFC has to come to grip. That the PPP got 33 seats, and the gentleman 3 small party make up 1, and the deputy Speaker of the House go to the opposition. And if there was a motion, somebody nominate the man and a vote, so be it. Then you come, and then I think the Honorable MP Katri Youth said, oh, well, he believed the man got about 2,000 followers. That was a low blow, because in order for that man to take that 2,000, what he have as of yesterday, and he be an honest man and share vision of the people, that 2,000 vote going to turn 200,000. That's once you stick with honesty and principle. And I fought corruption, with the little resources I have in the region. I fought it on both sides. I mean, it was the PPP running the RDC, and then you have we in government. And I challenge these things, and they try to drive wedge within me, but I refuse to back down in a way that I'm bringing to them that we have to fix these things in order to fulfill the people. Because these days with technology, and these days everybody have a little device in their hand, and you can talk to them in your pocket. So we were not doing that. We believe in the street, kind of come and reach a few boys and go back. And that was not working in campaigning. And we were only lies and lies.
So let me ask you this. 5 months from March 2nd to August 2nd, Gobin Harbhajan, look, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this first. Mr. Harbhajan and I had personal conversations during those 5 months. I will not disclose publicly what we said. What I will say is that Mr. Harbhajan has always bemoaned what was taking place. He didn't necessarily agree, but there are times that he said he had to stay on the side of being quiet. Mr. Harbhajan, I'd like to ask you publicly, sir, were you in agreement of all that transpired from March the 13th to August 2nd, or were you, even though silent, opposed to it?
I'm glad you brought that up because I've been facing a lot of criticism over the past couple of days, and people may not see my Facebook and my social media. I never once come out and say I support X or support Y. I stand my grounds and say is what the former presidency, well, let the court decide. But we were running in circles, right? And the tense and the was building up. It's like a pot boiling with steam in the country in all corners. And some of my colleagues would have the same view as me that, look, enough is enough. But we were the small fish. We could not, do anything much more than share your opinion. And then you will have a set of people jump on you and tell you, because one day we would have a little meeting here and there, and we would have believed the look is go that way. But like I said, this day and age, you cannot try to sell things or push something down anyone's throat unless they are committed to you as an individual. When I joined politics because to support the policy and the views of that political party. I never sign up to be call anyone Guruji, if you can explain what is Guruji. I never sign up for that. So I stand my ground.
Right. Did you think, notwithstanding what you said, that you were waiting to see, okay, what the courts are going to give or what results, the decision the courts, did you think that the APNO AFC would have or could have won these elections after March 3rd?
No, not what happened in Region 6. When you lost you get PPP got 43,000 votes in Region 6 and we got 20. Right there and then I realized the dashboard was flashing red. You couldn't pull it back. It would have been, I'm not from Region 4, but once I see that, I said to myself deep down that it's over with. You can go around in circles, over with. It's hard to fill that gap. Because of what the AFC did not face its weight in East Berbice, which is a swing voter paradise, and then with the estate went the other direction, no one come and talk to these people in the right way or anything. So when I see the Region 6 result, I mean, I must give credit to APNU. APNU did a wonderful job in campaigning in Berbice and Alton District. But as an AFC member, we were more piggybacking on them. So we couldn't. Once I saw that, I realized deep down, this is it. It's over with.
And Mr. Harbhajan, if I may ask.
My last one for you, just before Len takes over, and Ozzy jump in as well. My last one for you. Is the AFC dead now?
If the AFC dead?
You read my mind.
No, repeat the question, sorry.
A viable party? I'm asking whether you think the AFC has a chance now of remaining a viable party, or is it dead and buried?
No, it's gone. You know, there is an old saying, old people, what I'm seeing right now is like empty drum make the most noise. You can only bark with your mouth and whichever ears took it in, because I don't know if you cannot attract a region which was once over 10,000 votes. And in local government, you barely do some push patch and pick up 2 seats, one from Wim and one from New Amsterdam. You don't need an academic to tell you were in trouble. So I don't believe they have I don't think I don't believe it's like a racetrack and you have a 200 to 1 comment. It's not gonna happen.
Good.
Not this day and age. People you can only mislead them once or twice. They're not gonna buy you again.
Sir, so I wanna
let's go over to Leonard and then over to you, Ozzy.
All right.
Thank you very much, dear Yo. And I was about to ask him that same question about whether he believes that the AFC is dead, but you took the more words right out of my mouth. But I want to ask you about that particular position that you would have held, Mr. Harbhajan. You held a position, the Prime Minister rep in Berbice. What was the purpose of that office, and did you deliver what you were asked to do?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you brought it up, because right now I put forward that to some of the top PVP administration there. That office there, it was never once used for political purpose. I served that office, and I served the office of the Prime Minister, which today become a household name. And the purpose of that office was to bridge the gap between the ministers in Georgetown. Because when someone have complained, like let's say land problem, Guyana, GPL, NIS, and you the East Berbice, you have to vent your way to Georgetown, because if not, what used to happen in the past during the previous administration, a minister will come Berbice and you have a whole bunch of people with them little paper and they complain. So that's not the minister job. Minister job is to think where do the infrastructure and growth. So the office was seeing minimum about 70 to 130 person per month. And what I did, I should say, I used the region resource, because every minister and ministry in this country have an agency in this region. But the people in East Berbice just was looking for the guidance and direction. So I believe the office served its purpose. And if the PPP administration said how they said, like they have the Berbice interest at heart, I believe they should keep that office, and that office will give them an efficiency report will come out from the people direct rather than from a politician. And PVP won the region, but I'm hoping that they keep the office, because
Mr. Harbhajan,
people will see the value of it.
Mr. Harbhajan, respectfully, sir, I want to say this to you. I want to ask you first a question. I've listened to you, and I want to ask you, where were you? And respectfully, I'm doing this, sir. Where were you with the same type of advocacy from March 2nd to August 2nd? Also, I want to indicate to you, sir, that the difference, why the office that you held in Berbice was an office that was created for political reasons. I'm not bashing you here, sir. I'm doing this respectfully. It was an office that was created for political reasons, because ministers are expected to go out in those communities. You cannot have a government that is centralized in Georgetown and have a person representing them in Berbice. The ministers are expected to travel like we did, the PPP did. I was the admin assistant, for the former Minister of Health, Berbice. When we go to Berbice, we did not only go to Berbice to look after the just health issues. If someone came and they had another issue, yes, I was one of those persons with a paper who would jot down whatever the issue was and then pass it to the subject minister for action. So your office, sir, right. Why are you saying, sir? Let me just say this last point. You were saying that you saw 70 to 100 persons, right?
Yes, sir.
Or whatever. How many of those people received tangible help from the government back then? So it wasn't
the office was not to get. No, man. First of all, if you do, I think I read there some political analysis or activists. One of the things first, you should Google that office before you speak. That the office was not there to get government assistance. No. Let me finish. You said your piece because you have your mindset. Go back. That office bridged the gap. Bridge the gap, because why should Berbice wait for you to come down once every month to tell you what's happening? That was not the purpose of that office. The office was there because we send a report to the public, the subject minister. It wasn't great for job.
Show me where people benefited from that office. Show me where people benefited.
Why don't you after the report? We have a report. Every month we send a report. A report we sent, and I have document and through electronic hard copies with people, and it's up to today that the media was taking a look at it. So before he sit down and make that assessment, we logged everything down, and it's the office is not just office just come here. I'm one of those persons. You need to understand, sir, I did not needed a job. No. Therefore, you don't know me. I was never for a job. I just
Gobin,
This is not
so
anything
Mr. Harbhajan,
politics.
so hold on. So let's move from that. One of the things that I do know, Gobin, that like for example, Suresh Bobby, one of the viewers have said here that one of Gobin's main drive was fighting corruption on both sides. And because of that, he had pinched a few nerves as he had to cut everybody's runnings. But I think where Ozzy is coming from, Mr. Harbhajan, is that the PM and the ministers ought to go out there on their own anyhow. But where I want to come to you, Mr. Harbhajan, is in terms of the work you did, the advocacy you did for the Berbice community, are you then advocating that because of that kind of work, that the importance of an office there should be continued to look at by the new government? Did we lose Mr. Harbhajan?
I think we did. Maybe.
I think his mic is thing is frozen.
Well, the video is frozen.
Mr. Harbhajan, you there?
I didn't get it.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. But I think one of the things we want to do, Mr. Harbhajan, is look at the construct. One of the things you are advocating.
I'm not hearing you. So I'm hearing the gentleman clear. Gildarie, for some reason.
Okay.
One of the things what I still not hearing Gildarie, for some reason I'm not getting it.
Okay. Let's reset that. Now,
One of the things what I
hold on. You are advocating that the office you serve was important, and never mind that it is not you. You're advocating that the office should be continued, right?
Yeah.
That is because of the advocacy work you're doing. One of the things that Gobin, you might have realized is that you were a political appointee, and so
yes.
as I think you
that when I was a political appointee, and I fully agree that a new administration come into office, and we got to go. But I am not advocating to keep me. I think the gentleman, Mr. I'm advocating to keep.
I think that is clear.
Mm-hmm.
That is clear. I want to get from Gobin's perspective and from Ozzy's perspective. I'm going to ask you both the same question. When you look at the revelations of the new government, of the excesses of the Imran Khans and all the political appointees, were you shocked, Gobin, to see some of the salaries and the double dipping and the triple dipping and people drawing money here and there and the fancy money they were drawing? Were you shocked to see, sir, and did you know that they were having all of that kind of drawdown from the treasury?
Well, look, like I mentioned earlier, one of the things is that I thought my colleagues and the people who are working with the previous administration have the same views as me, that we are working for the people in the best interest. I read some of those salary and I look at some of those names. I was taken back with what they was making compared to people who in this region, what I know of, was doing a lot more than that, but I don't think they were getting that much. But with all these pranks and allowance, I believe that if I had known that prior to when that come out, I would have taken that not through the Prime Minister office, because some of the things I'll raise at the RDC, because I have some leverage there. So I would, if that gentleman know who I am, I go against a couple of ministers. He can Google that too and see that office did not only there because of the I was covering. Kemraj, I went after him a few times, Patterson and a few persons with what was going wrong. And I went, and when I couldn't get here, and he was in the press. So I was totally caught off guard when I see the type of salary some of these guys was making. And I wasn't upset that I didn't make it, but because I wasn't into the money, was the last thing I ever think at. But compared to some people in this region, which I know from even the PVP side of the region, they were out in the field too, you know, I think we have the chairman and the vice chairman. They for the PUP, they was making peanuts, and they were doing a lot of work. Like we were out there. So,
Right.
and then you have so much appointees in different areas in this region and across Guyana. I mean, it's lately those things bubble out. You know, I thought these people were all maybe linked with the part of the political entities, and I didn't know they were working for government, to be honest with you.
Right. Understood.
You know.
Ozzy,
And
Ozzy,
besides that, I
also-
want to add a point here. I want to add one thing here for the gentleman, that the office was not seeing people alone. I make proposal to put Berbice on the map with the 58, 59 All-Weather Road. And today, this administration asked for it.
Great.
Because I didn't do those things, and I did more.
Understood.
I sit in the field board of directors. It's not because of that, but most of the thing where I'm at, I make sure it bear fruits because I was working with one objective, not because I want a job. I think the gentleman needs to retract that because it was making a job for me.
Sir,
No.
Understood. Understood. Let's stop the back and forth. Ozzy, what's your opinion of, especially when you look at the excesses, when you look at the salaries, the hidden stuff that has emerged and come to light? You would have seen Colin Crowell on this show last week. You would have seen Minister Nigel Darmlal on the show last week. You would have seen AG on our show before. You would have heard Minister Gail Teixeira and so forth. What was going through Ozzy Rogers' mind when he was seeing these things, sir, in terms of those excesses?
well, once the coalition took office in 2015, they have indicated to us just a few weeks later that they were not going in there to serve the people of Guyana, but they were going in there to serve their friends and cronies. Hence the creation of offices like the office that Mr. Harbhajan held in Berbice. Mr. Harbhajan, like I said, this is nothing to do with him personally. Maybe they've created that office so that a friend of the AFC and a member of the AFC could be gainfully employed, because that office, as far as I know, and I've done my research, served no purpose. It was one individual, or it was created for an individual to sit there and to receive a salary. What Mr. Harbhajan is actually saying to us. Yes, sir.
But let us focus on the bigger picture. I don't want.
I understand.
Yes, Mr. Harbhajan. I would want to come back to him after you was.
My brother.
Your thought. I'm gonna allow you to complete your thought. Go ahead.
My brother, when the PPP was in government, and it's happening again now that the PPP is back in government, you have a ministers that is put there to serve the people. Hence, they go out into the communities to meet with the people, discuss their needs, and that sort of thing. When the Alliance for Change PNC went into power, they had the kings were sitting in the palaces in Georgetown, and the king's men like Mr. Harbhajan, who are going in the areas and claiming to taking back reports to the kings, and that was it. We want to see action. The people, the Berbice people, is about action. And Mr. Harbhajan, again, I want you to understand that I'm not attacking you personally or anything about you. I don't know anything about you, but I'm showing you it was the mindset of your party, the party that you supported, and the way that they operate. So coming back to the big salaries and stuff like that, Mr. Harbhajan, your party went into power to create an environment where they can have spin-off for their friends and their leaders, and they forgot about the people. Hence the reason you witnessed the death of the Alliance for Change in Berbice, and they can never come back. The people will never forgive them.
Right. So I wanna get on to
My former party.
Right. I want to ask you that. So, Mr. Harbhajan, you have really resigned from the AFC. Yes.
I didn't get to you.
Have you officially resigned from the AFC?
Yes. Last week, Friday, I officially sent a letter to David Patterson. I CC the leader Ramjatan and the chairman Nigel Hughes. I'm sorry, Raphael Trotman.
Okay.
And
What was Gobin Harbhajan's thoughts when Sharon Das crossed the floor?
I sit at the RDC, and one of the things is what RDC is like Parliament. And if you look what I have done at the RDC, maybe something not too similar what with the no confidence motion, but at the RDC we fight back and forward. But if the PPP put something forward at the RDC and it benefit the people, I support it as much as my colleagues may not. And if I put something and it benefit the people, the PPP support me. So we were going at that route. With the no confidence motion, I don't know how the Constitution and what framework, how they answer to the Parliament there. If it was party line has to be crossed and if they have an agreement or however. But what I'm reading now, and I saw yesterday, that is the same old tune we gone back with. After the gentleman was sworn as a deputy speaker, then the AFC, felt that, look, well, we don't get deputy. So it's a position, power thing again. And right. I don't see not one out of the 31 stay back. So I don't know if we ever going to change. That's why I'm appealing to even to the PPP or any other political party that politician must focus on the people at the bottom, because for years going years, we cannot take the people for granted and just go when we think, because it will come back. Because you see a lot of little small parties is growing now, and once you water it, it will grow. So the major political party has to look at that. And if you don't feed the people in the community and focus on the interests, like the other gentleman is saying that, well, a minister going to come on, so like he's absolutely right that every ministry has a department in the region. The question is the minister on top has to make sure they enforce. And because of that, sir, that 2015, the PPP ended up on the sideline because of that. The people felt they were being neglected. So they couldn't be, in your time, they were doing it right. They lost the election 2015. I hope this time, I heard you make an assessment that the president is all over. It's too early to make that he will go ahead and do good. And I'm glad if he do good. I never advocate.
Let me say this to you.
But I hope that he continue that.
As president than David Grange has done in 5 years, and Irfan Ali is only president for less than a month. More than what David Grange has done in 5 years. He's visited more communities in 5 years.
It's your view. We're not campaigning, It's your view. I'm not saying he's not doing good, but I hope he continue.
So let me ask you, Ozzy. You have seen the PPP's ministers, the cabinet. You have seen the PPP's appointments. Is Ozzy Rogers in full agreement? You don't have to point out which one you disagree with if you do. Is Ozzy Rogers in full agreement with all of the appointments that the PPPC has made so far?
Yes. I believe, I know His Excellency very well, Irfan Ali. I know that he would have done his groundwork, and I am confident that every single person that he put in place, he has confidence that that person can perform in that position. So I'm very confident. I am very happy with his selection. For me, it's not about who, but it's about by what means. And I think that is what the mindset of His Excellency, and he's out there. He's already started the work, and I think that he has put people in place who he can depend on and rely on to get the job that he intends to get done.
And I support that. If he do that, that's judgment. And if he can hold on, what the gentleman said, if His Excellency can execute that mindset, that you call managing rather than micromanage. And if he do that, he will get 200 support from me, and that's the way to go. If he continue, because I don't know the gentleman, all I know him as he was a former minister, and I think, like the gentleman said, he's on the ground, and that's a start. It's a good start. It's a positive. And the region, some appointment making this region by the PPP administration, I support all the appointments with the REU, the vice chair, which I think I have a clue it will be the chairman.
Over to you, Leonard.
Yes, and it's interesting. I'm listening to the back and forth. And
Act of
the
help.
boys,
Those are good in the region.
yeah, yeah.
So I think those was good decision. You know,
Yes, the boys on fire tonight, dear man, and I like it.
Yes.
But I must tell you that there's some disclosures that I got to make here tonight because you and I know you over the last couple of months. We've been trying to get Gobin Harbhajan, and this has taken a lash at a couple of the ministers and a couple of the I don't know what word to describe some of the people who would have been on a particular senior minister within the AFC. When we called that minister and when Gobin Harbhajan was supposed to come on the show, on my show, and then later on I think the particular room 592, the minister torn in the initial phases, torn and says, well, you should have made an alternative arrangement. And this is after I've been trying all day to think. It says, you know, you as a good journalist should have made an alternative arrangement to make Gobin. The point is I'm trying to say is that they were pushed back with when Gobin was trying to do some work. I've worked with Gobin, and this is not me talking as a politician, this is me speaking as a journalist. Work with Gobin, and Gobin would have done a lot of breaking things that the police were not able to do up there, that people would have gone to him. I think there's a need for that office up there based on what we would have been seeing. But there were deliberate attempts to stifle Gobin Harbhajan up there because when it was time for him to appear, they blocked him. They blocked him, literally blocked him. This is things that I experienced, and I think you experienced.
I can share this, Leonard. Sorry to interrupt. I can share this with viewers and listeners as well. I wrote personally to Moses Nagamotu because for Mr. Harbhajan to have had to appear, we had to get the senior people's permission. And I'm not against that. That's how politics, the political parties are run. But, you know, in many cases, you don't even get an acknowledgement. And if you do, it's a flat out no without any reason. So, Leonard, over back to you. I do endorse what you say. That has been so. Gobin has been willing to come, but the release has not been given by the politicians.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. And a question to both of you, gentlemen. Would you be willing, I know also you that you're over there in the United States, and Gobin, you're Berbice there. If you to be offered the positions, and this is a question to both of you gentlemen, would you be willing to serve maybe in the same capacity and OC capacity maybe, would you be willing to serve something over there? Are you willing to serve?
I'll let Mr. Harbhajan go first.
Gildarie and you know, I always be open. And once the position benefit the people and I have an opportunity to serve, I will do it with high standard. I don't matter which administration. If it's this present administration would know some of the work I does and they know the individual, I am open to anything. So if they give me an opportunity to serve the people of this country, I will willing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Ozzy?
Yeah. So of course I am willing to serve at any capacity that His Excellency may see fit for me to serve our people. And I am a person who always look up to Chetty Jaga and his work and the way he has always went down to meet with the people. And I've tried to inculcate some of his attitudes and habits into my own life. I'm not saying that I come close to that honorable gentleman, but yeah, I'm willing to serve in any capacity that's given or offered to me so that I can help to make the Guyanese life better.
Right. Gentlemen, I want to ask a question, Leonard, and I would like you to lead in this discussion, Leonard, as a journalist, because your experience in journalism is far-reaching. Gentlemen, we are seeing some dangerous trends currently taking place in this country. Put politics aside. People are engaged in protests. And the protests, weirdly, are now in support of Mingo. APNU AFC at one time said whatever the court decide we're gonna accept. Now they're supporting Mingo, which means they were supporting Mingo's actions in the past. That's one. But the more worrying one is that in this COVID-19 time, these people are out there, they are doing their protests and whatever it is. Leonard and then Ozzy and then Gobin, where do we go from here? Because if the police were to act, it becomes political. It becomes dangerous. If the police doesn't act, the rest of the population is now held at ransom and is thrown into great danger. How and where do we go from here then, gentlemen?
It's a very good question, Yoga, and let me say this to you. Many days I'm being asked questions during the daytime show. Well, they're coming into the stores at 5 o'clock directly and make sure that we close the stores. But then you see people going into the rum shop, and so you see that how you say, the uneven playing field being created for the people of Guyana, and then you see those people that would have blocked the road. I can't blame the people. Them they were being told that that the Mingo has been locked up. All kind of stories are being told. So they're there because they believe that Mingo is innocent. But at the end of the day, Yoga, I think, is grossly irresponsible of our authorities. When I say the authorities, political figures on one side of the divide, to be sending people out there in a very unhealthy situation, a dangerous situation with COVID-19, have them out there, and they're not there. They should be in the midst of that. They should be in the midst of that
Right.
for them to be able to expose themselves to. I think that is
Correct.
grossly. But to come back, I think there's a lot of narratives being told, a lot of people being fooled. Don't forget that 217,000 persons would have been told a particular story, and they believe it, and you can't
Well,
change that
five.
from them.
Yeah, but Leonard, for 5 months they were being told a particular story. I mean, when does it ever end? But gentlemen, we are running out of time. 1 minute, Ozzy.
Yeah. What I will say again, it shows you which political leaders are responsible and has the interests of the people, whether it be their health, their security, their well-being, and their upward mobility at heart, and which political party use their supporters as pawn to get their own political agenda move forward. Uh, I can't say it any better, sir. That's all I can say.
Thank you. That is indeed well said, and that's well said. And I'll remind viewers and listeners that it was no other than Jagdeo who said 2 months ago that he is not calling on his supporters to come out in any protest because he wants to protect them from the COVID disease. And that was I believe that was a kudos to him. That was a well thought out statement and a good decision. Gobin Harbhajan, what are your thoughts on the protests, sir, and the danger that's being posed to the general public?
Yog, we have
1 minute.
we have a global pandemic in this country and around the world, and it's COVID. This thing driving people crazy, and leaders should not encourage people to protest and block roads, etc. However, people must be responsible because this is a matter of their life and their health. Police can only do so much, and the commissioner, need to enforce the law, because if not, we will be in a crisis. That's what I got to say. And if you have the Minister of Home Affairs, and you have the engage the GDF, because rum shop, like you said, wake house, dead house, and everybody trying to make a few bucks, some corrupting the police, it's not going to take us any far. That's my contribution. Let's get them to do the job.
Thank you. And Mr. Harbhajan, I must say that if never before, now you got to develop a very thick skin, because I see a lot of your former colleagues attacking you. But, for whatever it is, sir, keep up the good work. Ozzy, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are at a time when we'll wrap up the show, I must share a special announcement with you all. 5 months ago, I started this journey. Worked with Mr. Leonard Gildarie. I will say work in lifted commas. Give my voluntary service to Mr. Leonard Gildarie and Glenn Lal with the Daytime Elections Watch. We did that for 5 long months. I stood by my principles, and on August 2nd, I came off that program. I believe the objective was met. Room 592, ladies and gentlemen, continued. And I continued because I said I will do it until we see a National Assembly sworn in and until a proper full-fledged government is in place. Ladies and gentlemen, as at this moment, a National Assembly is in place, Speaker has been appointed, Deputy Speaker is in place, government is in place, Governance will be left to each and every one of you. I want to therefore announce that on Friday, that is day after tomorrow, Friday will be the grand finale, or I should say season finale, Leonard, of room 592. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be doing a wrap of room 592 on Friday. And that wrap up will happen at the same time, 7:30. We know we have inspired a lot of people, not just in Guyana, but across the world. I remain proud of what we have achieved. We have been the voice of conscience for the people. We have been a political voice in a politically backward time for Guyana. We have not done it for fear, out of fear or favor for anyone and everyone. I have not been on the payroll for anyone. Glenn Lal cannot ever say he has paid me a cent. No political party can ever say that they offered me anything. It has all been voluntary. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an honor and a privilege to be here in room 592 with all of you. Maybe one day we will return in a different format to serve you all again. But I just want to say to you all, Friday evening, coming Friday, will be the season finale for room 592. Join us on Friday. We're going to bring some special guests on for short appearances to talk a little bit about where we are as a country. So, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday when we meet, it will be to say goodbye. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you all here tonight in room 592. Let me say thanks to my co-host, Mr. Leonard Gildarie. Let me say it's a privilege to my brother, Ozzy Rogers, as always. And Ozzy, please return for 5 minutes on Friday. Mr. Gobin Harbhajan, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. The wait has been long to bring you in room 592, but it has been worthwhile. Continue the good work. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are joining us from, remember, say a prayer for this beautiful country of ours. It is the best place on this planet. May God bless you. May God bless your family. Stay safe. From room 592, bye-bye for now. See you on Friday evening.